Phil went in for an elective routine operation. Shouldn't have been any problem. He was as fit as a fiddle. He'd just mowed the lawn back and front, trimmed the conifers and run 5k the few days before. He got a strong heart. There shouldn't have been any problem. He went in, and the next thing I knew was I had a phone call from the theatre sister to say that unfortunately he'd had a very bad reaction to one of the drugs, and his heart had stopped and he died for 10 minutes. They didn't tell me that on the phone, but they just said you need to get to the hospital as quickly as you can. And I remember saying to God in prayer as my son-in-law took me to the hospital, well, if Phil's gone when I get there, it's okay because I know where he's gone, because I know he's a Christian and I will see him again. When I got to the hospital, they said he'd had the worst anaphylactic shock that they'd ever seen at New Cross Hospital. And in due time, they said to me, they didn't expect him to live. I still felt no fear. I just was totally cocooned from it, sheltered from it. But I remember saying to the adult children, when they came, who were obviously distraught, look, the doctors are doing everything they can to help your dad, but they're limited in their knowledge. But your dad's got the resurrection life of Jesus in him, so we have to trust God. I don't want any negative spoken over your dad. We just believe that God can sort this out for us, whatever the outcome. And despite the fact that we were told that it was unlikely he would survive, but if he did, he's liable to have major health issues for life. Despite that, he walked out the hospital 11 days later, and he hasn't got any health issues linked to that anyway. He's everything, all his organs, all his kidneys, lungs, pancreas, everything. Because they shut him down, medically induced coma, went on life support with double the amount of drugs.
I think it was a record, 4 times.
4 times the amount of double strength drugs he was on, just to keep him alive. Wrapped him in what they call an Arctic sun to cool his body down. He'd got tubes and what coming out of him all over, and there were machines bleeping away, and he was just totally out of it. And yet he woke up 3 days later with absolutely no problem, which they were amazed at. And he just went from strength to strength and walked out of hospital 11 days later, to everybody's amazement.
But all I remember, I can tell you my part in this. On the Thursday at 1:30 in the morning, bearing in mind at this stage, I couldn't get out of, this is a week later.
Just a week later, exactly a week later.
I was under strict instructions from a physiotherapist not to get out of bed on my own because I was falling over. I had to have a Zimmer frame, an oxygen bottle, and one person either side of me just to help me to walk. And on the Thursday morning at 1:30, I was woken up by these words, "It is done." At this stage, on a Thursday and a Friday, I was still walking on a Zimmer frame supported by people. And on a Saturday morning, I was on the phone to Pauline, who's going to bring me this hospital food is not that wonderful. And she's going to bring me some fresh food in.
Taking him his favourite food in.
And I heard his voice say to me, well, men don't stay in their pyjamas all day. So I got on the phone to Pauline and said to her, can you bring me some day clothes in? And you thought the doctors had said...
I thought the nurses had told him to.
No, it was a deliberate voice from the Lord. I get to know his voice.
Mm.
And I heard him say, well, men don't stay in their pyjamas all day. And from barely being able to walk, with a Zimmer frame and 2 people and an oxygen bottle. That was on a Saturday. On a Monday, I walked out of the hospital completely
The physio was absolutely amazed because she'd seen how shaky he was. Come Monday, she came in, she said, would you mind getting up and walking for me? And he just shot out the chair and walked to the door, and she went, oh, you can go home. And we've been back to see consultants several times, and they've all said it's amazing. They didn't expect that to happen. So my boldest prayer, I guess, was to say to the children, praise God your dad's got the life, the resurrection life of Jesus in him. So let's be grateful and respectful of the doctors. They're doing the best they can, but they're limited. God isn't. For God, nothing is impossible. And they took my lead, and God answered that prayer. And all of us, family that came, we just kept speaking scriptures over him. We just kept playing worship music in his ears, and he can't remember anything at all. That's the boldest prayer that I think I ever prayed. And still amazes me what we went through.